and welcome. Kim here with another Just Ask Kim social media news update. And there has been a ton of stuff going on in the news lately. The one that's got everybody's attention the most, I would say, has to be that Instagram has added video. And if you happen to be blessed enough to be on an iPhone 4, 4S, or 5, you also have their new cinema feature, which incorporates image stabilization and really helps improve the quality of these videos. Now, these aren't just YouTube type videos. These are little short 15-second style videos, and they're designed specifically to go after Vine, which is Twitter's little video tool that essentially produces 6-second GIF style files. And Vine has been on a massive growth spurt. Vine has been growing at a rate of 46x over the last month before Instagram announced this. Now suddenly Instagram has pounced in the ring and grabbed it by the neck and thrown it on the mat, and we're waiting to see. Vine traffic has fallen, Instagram has spiked, but is this a case of everybody playing with a new toy? Is this a case of something that will settle out where people will return to Vine once Instagram isn't just showing off a new shiny? We always see when a new feature comes out, we always see a spike in the use of it, and it really can put a damper on competitors. Yet we often see the competitor rebound when their own little niche market really begins to show through. Are we going to see that in this case? It's really hard to say. I'll say for me that I was never big into Vine, that Vine's 6-second videos were always very challenging for me. I always felt compelled to have this need to do something creative in 6 seconds, but how do you do something creative in 6 seconds? Mind you, it can totally be done. There's some beautiful examples of Vines out there, some really compelling stuff, and yet it's very hard to want to enter that space when it feels like there's this real pressure to need to be compelling. The Instagram videos are touch to record, lift your thumb up to stop recording while you wait on a new position of your phone, touch to record again, easily remove a clip, and boom, you're done. Select a cover photo and you're set for the stream. Now, there's some pros and cons to this. There's this disruption that this is going to create to the Instagram ecosystem. Instagram had this benefit of being a very, very niche site. We talked about this in a prior video. We talked about how everybody was moving to being a very common type of site and how niche sites had an ability to thrive. Well, now that Instagram's added video, they're only a couple small features away from being a Tumblr, and Tumblr's only a couple small features away from being a Facebook. And Facebook isn't all that different than Google+. And you see where I'm going here? Everything begins to look alike when they're not niche sites. And so will this have killed the golden child? Will this have been the end of the vitality that has been important to Instagram? Or will it have brought enough users back to Instagram, and will those users stick that it will lead to the ongoing vitality of Instagram? It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, but I think that you're going to find that Instagram's 15-second video gives you a lot more flexibility to play, a lot more room to work in. You're going to feel a lot more confident in trying to make something that is watch-worthy and doesn't feel constrained by that 6-second of Vine. But at the same time, Vine has a very niche-specific little gig going on, and I wouldn't count it out just yet. Also in the news is the demise of Google Reader. So long, Google Reader. We will miss you much. You have served us very faithfully over the years, even if you were doomed from the day you were formed. Yet another project of Google's that was never given the legs that it should have been given from a very early start. It was nearly canned from the day before it was launched. It was never given the resources it should have, and Google definitely passed the buck on the opportunity to take this data that they were already pulling in and make it more social. They've done the same thing with Google Friend Connect, canned. They're also doing the same thing with Google Feed Burner, which is probably going to go the same route as Google Reader in the near future. There's a great post on my blog that has an infographic that talks about some of the apps that have now gone to the Google graveyard. Check that out. That's a fun infographic, as well as Slate has an interactive page that lets you, although slightly eerily, put flowers on the graves of Google projects that you will miss. I think you're going to be surprised at just how many Google projects have been canned over time, and that it's really important to consider projects in light of that. And I have to wonder if that doesn't shape how we use projects, how we rely or don't rely on social projects, because they can just poof go away. Definitely something to consider. In terms of app replacements for Google Reader, that's a big topic this week. I've got some posts on the blog about that. But apps to watch would be Feedly, definitely the app of choice for pretty much everyone. The things that Feedly is lacking at the moment, such as search, such as OPML exports, and the list goes on, almost all of that is on their roadmap for within the next 30 to 60 days. If you're not yet happy with Feedly, I definitely give it a chance again in 30 to 60 days. Go ahead and get your data out of Google Reader. Be sure that you've got your data backed up. But don't necessarily, think that you have to settle on one of these today. An up-and-coming reader that might surprise people is AOL's reader. Surprisingly nimble, pretty lithe on its feet, not yet full-featured, but brand new to the table. Much more comprehensive. I don't really want to say comprehensive because it's a pretty lightweight app, but then Dig's new reader. Now Dig put out a reader, and that's kind of a disappointment at this moment. Dig, what are you guys doing over there? Figure this out. I don't know where they're going with the project, but they definitely kind of dropped the ball on their current release. News Blur is actually the app that I prefer for my Android phone. And yes, that once you want a bunch of feeds in there, it does move into being a premium service, but it's only $24. I really like it on my Android. It is one of the most versatile I've used. It gives me a flow that works. However, like some of the others, it's missing some tools. It's missing a search. So I want that service to come along and add a search and add some tools. NetVibe is one that some people like if they want a different paneled style layout. If you preferred some readers that were before Google Reader and used a very different layout, NetVibe may be your option of choice. If you want to mimic the Google Reader as closely as possible, your option may be the old reader. And if you're a social media person who doesn't generally use feeds but really can benefit from having them handy for stuff to share, check out Hootsuite's new syndicator. I've got a tutorial for that on the blog. What may yet be the long shot that's arriving into the field, and we expect to hear from shortly, is Facebook intends to, most likely, launch a reader designed to take on Flipboard. Now, is this true or is this rumor? Sounds like from the Washington Post article that this is in fact and has been long in the planning. In fact, possibly even before Reader's demise was announced. Going after Flipboard makes a lot of sense, but can Facebook pull this off? I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out. I'm not going to call this one direction or the other yet. It's too early to say, but definitely don't count Facebook out of this game just yet. Coming back to Feedly, again with Feedly being really the favorite at the moment and one that is very useful. There's just a whole lot of stuff going on in Feedly that either you wanted from Reader or you needed from Reader or just isn't there in the replacement apps just yet. And it's either coming in Feedly or already there. I've got a link to a post over on social media today that has some Feedly hacks. It talks about using the RSS and using if this then that to connect it to different services and to do some really cool stuff with it. So those Feedly hacks may actually be something that really frees you up and gives you some flexibility with the app. Speaking of hacks, there's some Gmail hacks. Now, I use a whole bunch of these, and I've never gotten around to blogging them, but BuzzFeed has a great post on these 8 Gmail hacks that save me a lot of time. So I think if you check them out, you're going to find that they really improve your Gmail experience. Speaking of Google and what Google's up to, Google Plus has just announced new badges for the profiles, pages, and communities. We've got new badges entirely for communities. These look a little better than prior badges. They're a little more styled. They're a little less ugly. I don't think any of us will deny that the prior embeds to do our authorship were just terribly ugly, and the buttons to follow people were just, again, terribly ugly. This is an improvement on that. Are they perfect? No, I'd say not. Do I think they can still use some work? Yeah, sure, but they're a great progress forward. And if you've got communities, this is the first time we've had buttons at all for communities, so be sure to check that out. Twitter's got stuff going on, and if you haven't had a chance to check in on what they're up to, Twitter cards are a new method by which apps can display sort of a thumbnail style specialty display in the stream. Whereas most items don't open a thumbnail within the Twitter stream itself, these cards are a special type of stream item, and for certain things are mostly for paid advertisers. The one that I really want you to pay attention to that's for paid advertisers and those doing sponsored tweets are the cards that are for lead gen. And lead generation is a big deal in social media today. These lead gen cards let people that are using them as sponsored tweets to set it up so that an individual that is reading the content in the newsfeed of Twitter and that is reading this as it goes by can click one button and automatically get on your email list. It's already got its authentication in place. It's part of why Twitter did that API change that they did recently where they canceled that old API and they brought the new one in, a whole bunch of techie stuff, doesn't really matter to most of us, but it had a lot to do with these types of services. Twitter has had a really hard time substantiating that it was able to generate leads and that the real value to the effort was there. And now with cards like this, you can really show that ROI. You can really show that lead generation. You can really show each part of those things that are critical business metrics. And so paying attention to these lead generation options is something that even small businesses are going to really want to look at, whether this fits in their model and whether you can set up a simple incentivized offering, same as you might already use on your blog, might already use on a squeeze page, run it as a promoted sponsored tweet through the feed, pick up some leads, there you go, easy done, and leverage the network not just for reach anymore and not just for visibility, not just for publicity, but also for the chance to capture some leads at a more primary level of contact. Now, speaking of things, that is something that's only been available to the advertisers at this moment, but something that might have only been available to advertisers but got offered to everybody was the new Twitter Analytics tool. Twitter has released analytics to everyone, and if you haven't checked this out, it's really hot. You go to analytics.twitter.com and you log in, and near the top, there's two ads. One is for your, or two links. One is for your current the view of the ads you might be running. You're going to skip over that and you're going to go to the next one that says analytics. And when you first log in, it's not going to have anything there for you. It's going to take it anywhere from a couple minutes to 30 minutes to pull in some data. And once it does this, you have a view of your feed, you have a view of who you're following, of how you're tweeting, of what people are responding to, of response times. There is a beautiful amount of data there. And in fact, there's so much data there that it is very interesting that they didn't release this only to businesses, but in fact gave it to everyone. It's free. This is something that is paid caliber. It's definitely worth checking out if you've been wanting to get a better understanding of what's going on in your current Twitter usage and your current Twitter followers. Be sure you check out the analytics for Twitter. Now, one other thing that's also come with Twitter is that they've updated their notification system. And now when somebody favorites a piece of your content, you're going to get a notification. Prior, you didn't get that. Prior, there wasn't a whole lot of information of what people were doing with your content. So that's just been built into the notification system. And you may or may not notice it depending on whether people are favoriting your stuff. But if you get an extra notification, now you know where it came from. Now, some long shots out there. MySpace, it's alive. Oh yeah, MySpace is not only alive, but has never properly died. In fact, it reminds me of the Monty Python flick, you know, where he's going to bury the old man, and he says, "But I'm not dead yet." Well, you will be soon, but I'm not dead yet. Well, everybody keeps saying that MySpace is dead, but MySpace has never properly gotten around to dying. Comes in about 6th to 10th in terms of its ranking in social media properties, and has remained its own niche property. And remember, I was talking just a little bit ago about how important these little niche sites are and how much having a niche approach can be actually very, very successful today. Well, MySpace has relaunched again with this focus on music, this focus on recording artists, this focus on that type of stuff with an embedded player and a lot of neat stuff going on. And it continues to show signs of life. And in fact, the relaunch has actually been pretty vital for it. And so if you're in the music genre, be sure you're paying attention to this. And if you like music, you might want to pay attention to it just for the stuff going on over there. In other long shot news, an app that's no longer a long shot would be WhatsApp, otherwise known as What's Up. If you just hear somebody say it, you might think it's What's Up. It's WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is a cell phone, smartphone style app that enables SMS replacement style communication. It handles much like an SMS app, only it doesn't use your SMS data, allows you to connect. It's free for the first year, $1 after the first year, and this app has just been growing like wildfire. This app shows no signs of slowing down, and a month ago they kind of took everybody back when they claimed to be bigger than Twitter, but they released no numbers. Well, this month they came out and they revealed that they have 250 million active monthly users. I believe that's monthly, whereas Twitter in comparison has 200 million monthly active users. Let me get my data there in the right order, and that actually puts them ahead of Twitter. Now, that's not comparing apples to oranges. That's not, they're a social network, but they're not really. You know, it's not really an apples to oranges thing. Comparing them to Twitter is kind of odd, but yet at the same time, a lot of people really, really like WhatsApp, particularly the younger generation, the 24 and under, are really fond of this app. And if you wonder places they're going, things like Snapchat, things like WhatsApp, these kind of apps are where the current teen population is spending a lot of their time, what they're relying heavily on, and how they're doing things like avoiding the massive charge that cellular plans put on text packages. I think we're seeing a shift away from cellular companies being able to charge an arm and a leg for these unlimited text packages, because you're just getting able to just go through the data plan and use the data plan. Apple really brought this front and forward with their iMessage platform, which allows Apple devices to smart connect like that in much the same manner and replace SMS with iMessenger. So for us to see other apps like WhatsApp doing almost exactly the same thing isn't surprising at all. But what is surprising is just the sheer number of people using the app monthly. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. Not something that's easy to monetize or easy to market on or easy to work with from a marketing perspective, but just something to keep an eye on. All right, I hope this news roundup helped you stay on top of the social media news today and improve your marketing. I'm Kimberly Castleberry, and I look forward to your comments in the box below. You take care, and I'll catch you in the next social media update.